What's up, everyone? I have a very quick impromptu video that I wanted to share with you all today because it's actually huge and I think all of you can benefit from this. The topic of today's video is how I use Instagram and how I personally think it's helped me and how I think it can help you too. This is not an ad for Instagram. It's actually a different perspective through which to look at social media, because I think a lot of people think social media and think bad, but I actually think there's a lot of positives to it that I'm going to share with you right now. So to start, I'm actually going to go all the way down to my very first post on Instagram. The thing about Instagram that we're going to really talk about today is how to use Instagram to really keep track of big moments and then ultimately use those big moments to up your academic standing or keep track of the big things that happen in your life. So for example, I've been on Instagram now for about 3 years. There have been a lot of things that have happened in those 3 years, and almost inevitably when something big happens, I encourage you to take a picture of it. You may not want to post it to Instagram. I usually do. And when I post these pictures to Instagram, it gives me a big way to actually keep track of important life events that I may want to refer to in the future, that I may even forget about in the future. But the funny thing is, Instagram will always have that there. And I think a lot of people may even have Instagrams and not use it for this simple benefit. For example, I know exactly when I started med school because this photo was posted on August 17, 2017. And that tells me, oh, that's when I started medical school. All right. I know when I ruptured my Achilles tendon because this photo is when I ruptured it, and it actually has September 6, 2017 on it. By having these pictures, I get to keep track of big life events. And specifically, this comes in really handy when you're trying to make a CV, when you're trying to make a resume, or when you're just trying to figure out what were big things that happened that I may have forgotten about. I don't know about all of you, but there's so many things that happened in medical school for me that I, in the moment reflect on and think that they're very meaningful and that I should hold on to this. But, 3 weeks down the road, I completely have forgotten. But when those events are big enough that I'm like, oh, I'm going to want to remember this, or, ooh, I need to write this down on my CV, I'll take a picture of something and usually post about it because, one, it had a pretty big impact on my life and probably provoked me to think a certain way or made me proud or made me feel sad or made me feel a certain way. So I'll post it on Instagram as a way to reflect on those feelings. But secondly, 3 weeks from now, when I've almost forgotten about those feelings, when I've forgotten about that revelation, Instagram will be there to guide me. And that's huge. That's huge. And so, continuing up this, what you'll also see is I actually have unique photos. Like, for example, I worked on the Yale Second Look video, and that's actually something that I include on my CV because it's something that, I put a lot of time into. And the way I remember I worked on it is by posting these small tidbits from the video. So that way, even when 4 years down the road, I forgot about that video, but if I'm making that CV or if I'm making a resume, it's right here. Instagram has kept chronological track of all the big things that have happened in medical school for me. And that has relieved me of the burden of trying to keep track of it myself. And that is huge. I don't think people can appreciate just how big of a deal that is. Similarly, let me show you something else. I was elected as a Haven director of my free clinic. And so this is a photo of a presentation I made when I was director of my free clinic. And so now, even though 6-7 years down the road, I may not remember I was director, this photo is chronological proof of, oh, I was director. And not just that I was director in my second year during July. And that's huge. That's so meaningful. Similarly, some of the mentors I have. This is a doctor who I work pretty closely with. This is another professor I've worked closely with. And by remembering all of these, I can actually piece together big tidbits. And so let's say I want to ask for a letter of recommendation. Who should I turn to? Oh, what about the multiple mentors I have photos with? Oh, that's right. Yeah, I probably can turn to them. Even though off the top of my head, I may not remember. Similarly, let's say I want to talk about, ooh, what was a big thing that happened? Oh, yeah, I made a board game and it won an award. And when did it win an award? It won an award around like October 7th. Like, all of these things are really important. Oh, when did I do my first poster presentation? Oh, it was right here. It was on November 13th, 2018, where I presented a poster on patient education videos. And I would have totally forgotten that. I actually did forget I did this, but Instagram kept track of it for me. And so because of all of these small things, because of Instagram, I actually keep track of big events. And because of that, when I look down, let's say I need to make my application for medical school or residency, and I'm making that application, and I want to make sure I've been holistic in that application, my Instagram is actually one of the places I turn to. And here it is. Here's another one. I went to a society conference for free clinics. I presented all of the work I did at my free clinic, and this is my memento for it. Similarly, I was on a podcast. I was on How I Built This with Guy Raz, and I actually have physical proof of it right here on my Instagram. I was on urology rotation, and I got to wear loops, so I have proof of that. So all of these big events. Oh, here's another one. Here's when I broke 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So Instagram gives me a huge, huge, huge advantage in this way. And that's why I actually post on Instagram pretty regularly. Of course, I love sharing my journey, and I think that's meaningful. But it actually serves a benefit for me too, in the sense that if and when I want to go back to when something happened, Instagram is my one-stop shop, and that's huge. So that's how I use Instagram. I use it to keep track of the people who mean a lot to me that I don't want to forget. I use it to keep track of big events, like, making a presentation, or when I got to present a poster, or when I felt really grateful. I use it to keep track of all of that. Because, 5-10 years from now, when I'm trying to make something big, or when I'm trying to compile a personal statement, I may want to talk about some of these moments. And believe it or not, these moments may be lost from my head because they're so inconsequential in the broader scheme of things. And by having them right here, I just scroll through and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember pediatrics. I remember playing with the kids in pediatrics and how that meant a lot to me. Oh yeah, I remember my pediatric residents, and I remember how I danced with a lot of them and shared my board game with them. Oh yeah, I remember being on the podcast. So by having all of these things here, one, it gives me a way to share my journey, which I am grateful for. But two, it also gives me a chance to capture my journey in small tidbits that I can then use to reflect when something big does come along, say applying to residency or, making bigger and better YouTube videos like this. So that's kind of my 2 cents on social media. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I encouraged you to at least use social media in a more positive way for yourself, because that's kind of how I use it. And with that being said, follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace.